I couldn't believe my ears. No room? Surely he was kidding, right? I mean, my family had come to this inn every year since I could remember, and now, no room?
The journey was hard and long. It seemed like weeks. Riding that distance on the back of the donkey at 9 months pregnant was not very pleasant, but finally we made it. I remember when I saw the lights of Bethlehem. As we were approaching, what a feeling of relief. I was so glad to be rid of that animal, or so I thought. And then all of that was gone, in an instant, with 2 words: no room.
They were coming. They were just outside of town. I had heard the reports. We all had. The Son of God. Really? That was their explanation? Of course, none of us believed it. The Messiah would come in splendor and glory. He would come in majesty and power. He was coming to establish his kingdom, not to be born into the family of a carpenter. Ridiculous. Still, I knew Joseph. He was a good man. His family had been staying with us for many years. I couldn't just turn them away, could I? Of course, I could not let them stay. I knew that, after all, what would people say? How would it look?
Of course, I knew what this was about. We all knew what this was about. But I was getting so weary with the glances and the murmuring, and I can only imagine what Mary must have felt. And honestly, I don't know how she did it. See, I was sure of the promise that she carried, no doubt in that. And I was sure that he was the Messiah. But living in the day-to-day, from the time of the promise that it was given up until its fulfillment, was proving to be way more challenging than I had ever expected. And now, no room? I could see the disappointment on Mary's face. She was so strong, but even in her strength, I could see the tears start to form. And I had to do something. Anything, really.
I fought to keep my composure, but I could feel myself starting to break down. Emotionally, I was drained from the journey, and just from the pregnancy in general, especially given the unusual circumstances. I had seen the looks and heard the talk. I mean, I would not have believed it either if someone had told me what we had told them, but still, it had taken its toll.
I had worked so hard. I had earned everything I had. I certainly wasn't going to throw it all away for this. No, they could not stay. But Joseph looked so different. He looked weary for sure, but somehow happy. He was the same man I had seen so many times before, but yet he was different. I told him there was no room. He knew that I could have made room, and he knew why I didn't. I had my business to think about, my reputation, but the way he looked, the way he spoke, I was almost convinced that it was real. Could it really be that Mary was carrying the Messiah?
I was so thankful to have been able to go and see Elizabeth. What a great time that was, and she was so kind and so understanding. She told me that the child leaped in her belly when she saw me. I wasn't exactly sure what she meant of that, but I knew it meant something. I was carrying the Messiah, after all. But now, no room? What were we going to do? I felt so bad for Joseph. I knew he loved me, and I know he was doing his best to seek shelter for me from everything. But now what would he do? What could we do? No room. Just 2 words so devastating. No room for the Messiah. I wondered then for a moment, how many more times would he hear those words in his life? So many times would he be told that there was no room for him. He was coming to make room for us in his kingdom, but yet we have no room for him?
All right, I said. He had persisted, and finally, I gave in. I would not give them rooms, but I could give them the stable. It wasn't much, but it was all I was willing to do.
and it wasn't much but a stable. It was a shelter. It was the best I could do.
The stable, it is, I guess. Not what I would have called ideal, but my time was almost come, and Joseph had done well to even gain a stable.
I thought for a moment about the Messiah being born in a stable, and I can't imagine this is how it was supposed to be. I felt as if I had failed God. I'd done my best, but it just wasn't enough. I thought then about what would have been. What exactly could I have done to show proper honor to the King of Kings, the Messiah, as he entered the world that he created? And I realized that there was not enough. There was nothing I could do at all that would ever be enough. And in that moment, I realized that it was never really about what I could give or what I could offer, but it was all about him. He chose us. He would be our son. We would love him and we would cherish him, but only because he first chose us. And so the stable it was. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the best our world could offer, but it was my best. It was our best. And that was enough. That was all he really wanted.
I remember it so well as I lay there in pain. And yes, there was pain. He may have been the Messiah, but it was still childbirth. I remember the moment so clearly, the moment that he came into the world, the moment I first heard him cry. Many years later, I would hear him cry again, and I would realize then that what started there in the stable saw its fulfillment on a cross, that he had done it. He had finished what he was born to do. But at that moment, that first moment when he took his first breath, the breath that he had breathed into man at creation, when he had breathed that breath for the first time as a man, all I felt in that moment was just joy, pure, absolute joy.
The look on Mary's face, I remember it as though I was still standing there looking at her. It was joy. That's the only way I can describe it. It was pure joy. I had heard her travail. I heard the baby cry. But when I saw her face and that little child in her arms, it was then that I knew. I knew that he was come. That Messiah was with us. He had come to save us, to make a way for us. When I could not do enough or be enough, he was enough. What love, what peace, what joy.
I don't know what time it was, but the light woke me up first. It was so bright, blindingly bright. And then the singing, it was beautiful, unlike anything I had ever heard. I had no idea at first what this was about. And then I remembered, no, surely it couldn't be. Joseph, Mary, the child, was he really the Messiah? Immediately I knew that it was true. And I knew what I had done. I had rejected God. And so I got dressed as quickly as I could, and I ran outside and started to approach the stable, but I couldn't. I couldn't approach them now. Approach him now. I had turned him away. He had come to visit me, to stay with me, but I had refused. I remember the moment that I saw him. They could not see me. I was outside the light of the fire, but I could see them, see him. This little baby, this was the one that those angels had been singing about. He looked to me like any other baby, except he looked at me then. I know it's impossible. He couldn't have seen me, but he saw me. And the look on his face was so peaceful and pure. It was full of love.
He was here, my baby, my savior. He was here. I wanted everyone to know him. I wanted to shout it from the mountain. He is here. Jesus, my son, the Messiah, he is here. But I didn't have to. I guess all of heaven felt the same way as I did. It was glorious. When the sky opened up and the angels started singing, it was glorious. It was just glorious. I don't know who else saw it or who else heard it, but I did. And I knew this was a time to celebrate, a time for joy and peace, a time to spread the good news that he was to come to bring life and love to all who would hear. He was here.
And as I looked down on his face, I saw a baby, yes, but I saw so much more. I saw the love of God incarnate. I saw the fulfillment of prophecy. I saw the Messiah. And I thought again how unworthy I was. Maybe I couldn't give him the best of everything, but I could give him my best. And that was enough. He was enough. No, he was more than enough.
As I looked at that baby in that moment, I knew that I was looking at the face of God. And I saw then that he was not angry or disappointed in me, but that he had come for me. He had come to save me. And it was not too late. I had turned him away, but still he loved me. I could hear him calling to me. In that moment, I decided that I would follow him. I would love him because he loved me. And then the joy came, joy like I've never felt before. The Messiah was here. The Savior had come for me.